After my father's passing, the mood quickly shifted from mourning to contentious debates about his assets and inheritance. My brother-in-law, Peter, married to my older sister Amy, boldly declared that she should inherit everything, including $12 million. As they prematurely celebrated their assumed fortune, the lawyer stepped in, halting their jubilation with a stern reminder that these decisions were not theirs to make. I'm Benjamin, 39 years old, married with 2 children. My father had been a major shareholder in a company and had continued working well into his later years. Amy, the problematic sibling, had always had a tumultuous relationship with our parents due to her erratic behavior. In her 50s, she lacked a stable career and lived impulsively, assuming that our father would always bail her out. Her reckless spending peaked when she married Peter, a younger, lazy man, and squandered much of the money Dad had provided for their wedding. She assumed that she would inherit everything and continually demanded financial support. The sudden death of our father, who had suffered a heart attack while golfing, was a devastating blow. I took on the responsibility of arranging his funeral, while Amy was absent, caught up in her usual escapades. The following day, the lawyer arrived to read the will, and Amy and Peter audaciously claimed everything should go to her. The room fell silent as the lawyer revealed a shocking truth. Amy was not our father's biological daughter, and she had never been legally adopted, despite her assumptions. This revelation struck Amy hard, sparking a heated confrontation with our mother about her origins. As the legal intricacies unfolded, it became clear that Amy, despite being the eldest, was not entitled to the inheritance she had assumed was hers. Peter, realizing that the financial windfall he had been counting on wasn't coming, lashed out, further exposing the opportunistic nature of their relationship. The following months were filled with turmoil as Amy tried to manipulate the situation for financial gain. It only ended when the legal terms of the will were firmly enforced. In the midst of all this, our mother's health deteriorated, and she passed away. The grief was compounded by the discovery that Amy and Peter had stripped our family home of valuables in a desperate attempt to claim more wealth. As I navigated the emotional and legal aftermath of my parents' passing, determined to protect their legacy, the house remained filled with murmurs about their inheritance. Suddenly, Amy and Peter barged in, unaware of the full details, and boldly declared that all of Dad's stocks and a $12 million inheritance were rightfully hers. We did it. Amy, we're set for life, Peter exulted, but the lawyer intervened, silencing them with a firm warning. Hold on a minute, he said gravely, as my sister shot him an incredulous look. Amy, you're not entitled to any inheritance. The room went quiet, and Amy and Peter stood frozen, unable to comprehend the lawyer's words. But I'm the oldest daughter, Amy insisted, looking to Peter for support. It quickly became clear that Peter had been counting on this inheritance, but the lawyer gently revealed a family secret. Didn't you know? Amy is not Mr. Benjamin's biological child. Amy's face drained of color, her eyes darted to our mother, whose expression was difficult to read. I had always known Amy was a half-sibling, but she had been completely unaware. Stunned, she confronted our mother in disbelief. What does this mean? In a low, troubled voice, our mother confessed, Amy, you're from my previous marriage. The revelation stunned Amy, who had long boasted about being Dad's favored child. As she processed the news, Peter tried to salvage the situation, but she must still have rights to the inheritance since she was legally adopted, right? He argued. Amy echoed his sentiment, but our mother shook her head. There was no legal adoption. Amy and Peter were left dumbfounded. Amy, unable to accept the truth, protested, but I'm the oldest daughter. Dad even acknowledged that. Frustration bubbled over as she turned to me, accusing, you're going to take everything, aren't you? I couldn't hide my annoyance at her sense of entitlement. After all the help Dad gave you, you still talk like this? Be reasonable, I retorted. The argument escalated, with Amy and Peter insisting that there was nothing wrong with a father supporting his daughter. But I realized the painful truth. While parental support is normal, Amy had exploited our father's generosity to cover her debts and mishaps. In an attempt to diffuse the tension, I focused on the difficult road ahead. I suggested, why don't we just show Amy the will? The panic on her face was immediate as she realized the gravity of the situation. She had completely ignored the discussions Dad had arranged about his will, dismissing the family meeting where we were all supposed to review it together. She had chosen instead to pursue her own interests, oblivious to the significance of what was being discussed. As the reality of her oversight set in, her husband, Peter, shot her a look of frustration. He was clearly disappointed, and his glare emphasized the seriousness of what she had neglected. When Dad had discussed the will, Amy had opted out, choosing to spend her time elsewhere. I pointed out her absence during those crucial talks, and Peter scolded her sharply, underlining how important it was to have been present. Reluctantly, they agreed to listen to the lawyer, who began to reveal the details of the will. It was explicit. The inheritance was designated for me and our mother. The will also explained why Dad had hesitated to adopt Amy. He had planned to, but her dismissive attitude toward me, her reckless financial habits, and general irresponsibility as she grew older had caused him to pull back. The shock on Amy's face was unmistakable. In the heat of the moment, Peter angrily accused her of misleading him about her financial status. His frustration grew as he realized the fortune he had been counting on was non-existent. His anger flared, and he demanded that Amy not return home until she had secured some money for them. Confused and disappointed, he stormed out, leaving everyone in a stunned silence. Amy, overwhelmed by a mix of anger and frustration, turned to our mother, tearfully demanding to know why she hadn't been legally adopted. "It's not fair," she cried. "Why am I not getting anything from the inheritance?" Her emotional outburst took me by surprise, but the lawyer remained composed, used to handling such heated family dramas. "Why does he get everything?" Amy spat, glaring at me. "Because I'm Dad's son," I explained, my voice calm despite the tension, which only seemed to fuel her anger more. "This is all your fault," she accused. "Maybe things would have been better if you hadn't been born." Before I could respond, the lawyer intervened, his voice firm. "Amy, your aggressive behavior could lead to legal consequences." The reminder of her past transgressions seemed to momentarily sober her, and the room grew quieter. Despite the tumultuous revelations and the chaos that followed, the inheritance proceedings were handled smoothly in the months that followed. Thanks to the lawyer's meticulous oversight, Amy and Peter occasionally expressed their discontent, but they had little power to interfere at that point. Out of compassion, our mother did provide some financial support to Amy during this time, despite the obvious strain between them. I chose to remain silent about my sister's actions, though they troubled me greatly. Her and Peter's abrupt disappearance with the funds only reinforced their blatant greed, leaving our relatives shaken by their behavior. One afternoon, I decided to take my mother, wife, and daughter out for lunch, a suggestion from my wife that seemed to brighten my mother's spirits as she enjoyed the time with her granddaughter. During the meal, I gently proposed, "Hey Mom, why don't you come live with us?" I added, "But I should warn you, Amy might only show up when she needs money." My mother hesitated, understandably wary. Amy's unpredictable nature and the trouble she often brought with her made her a difficult presence to invite into a peaceful household. But the offer stood, and I could only hope it would bring some comfort to my mother, who had endured so much. As we drove back, I asked my mother to consider my suggestion. The familiar family home loomed ahead, seemingly vacant, but to my surprise, the lights were unexpectedly on. "Let's pop in for a quick coffee," I suggested, suspecting that Amy might be inside. As we neared the entrance, a car suddenly swerved toward us, narrowly missing but sending me tumbling into a flower bed. The shock of the near miss was overwhelming as my wife and daughter rushed to my side, while my mother stood by, visibly shaken. The driver turned out to be Peter, my brother-in-law, who later claimed to the police that he had mistakenly confused the accelerator with the brake. I found that story hard to believe. Recovering in the hospital, I was visited by my sister, who coldly commented on my resilience. Her tone suggested something darker, that she might have hoped for a more tragic outcome that could have benefited her financially. With a smirk, I replied, "Too bad for you," noticing her discomfort at the thought. I then revealed that our mother had decided to waive her inheritance in favor of my family, rendering any plots surrounding the accident pointless. The idea that someone would willingly decline what they were entitled to seemed foreign to Amy. As we spoke, I informed her that I had already drafted a will, following in our father's footsteps, to ensure that my wife and children would be financially secure. Overwhelmed by the news, my sister pleaded, "Can't you at least give me some? There's $12 million, right?" Her desperation was palpable as she trembled, realizing that the financial security she had coveted was slipping through her fingers. When I firmly denied her request for half of the inheritance, her expression twisted into fury. She reached out and grabbed my collar. "Give me half. I'm your sister," she screamed, her voice tinged with disturbing desperation, possibly pushed to the edge by her unrelenting greed. I looked at her with sadness, knowing how deeply our father would have been disappointed by her behavior. Her anger escalated dangerously as she lunged for my throat. "Amy, what are you doing?" my mother cried, her voice filled with concern. Nurses hurried in to prevent further escalation and escort my sister out of the room. Despite her instinct to protect Amy, it was clear that my sister had lashed out at her as well. Heartbroken, my mother lamented, "Where did I go wrong in raising her?" The pain in her words was heartbreaking, and I could only offer her a quiet reassurance. Soon after, my mother's health took a turn for the worse. She became increasingly frail, and my wife and I took on more responsibilities, helping with transportation and household chores. This seemed to irk my sister, particularly when she saw my wife's involvement during her visits to ask for money. Unexpectedly, my sister announced that she and her husband would take over caring for our mother, abruptly telling us that our help was no longer needed. Despite my attempts to discuss the matter, she hung up on me, leaving me worried about her lack of experience and her husband's questionable care abilities. My concerns were soon justified when, within a month, an ambulance rushed my mother to the hospital due to a medication error, something she had never made before. The home was in disarray, the fridge empty, the hired help dismissed, and significant sums of money were missing from her bank account. Thankfully, my mother was stable, but the situation left me deeply troubled. The inheritance was safely secured in a deposit box, but the situation was dire. As I gathered necessities for my mother's hospital stay, she quietly confessed that my brother-in-law had been managing her medication. Realizing the gravity of this, I suggested, maybe it's best not to let Amy into the house anymore. Her response, heavy with exhaustion, struck a deep chord. "Benjamin, I promised to take care of you," she said, her voice breaking, "but the house is such a mess, and you've lost so much weight. Have you been eating properly?" Worried for her well-being, I proposed that she move in with us, where we could ensure she received proper care. Overcome with emotion, she broke down in tears. Despite all efforts to stabilize her condition, her health continued to decline, likely worsened by the stress from our family's conflicts. She never fully recovered, passing away in a manner that echoed the painful way our father had left us. After her passing, I returned to the family home to arrange her funeral and was shocked to find that all the valuables were gone. It seemed likely that Amy and her husband had taken them. Desperate for wealth, standing in the hollow silence of the empty house, I felt a surge of resolve to hold them accountable. The next day, I met with the lawyer, where my sister audaciously declared, "Mom's inheritance rightfully belongs to me, her daughter." Facing her continued entitlement and deceit, I prepared myself to confront her, determined to protect my parents' legacy and seek justice for their memory. As Amy boldly laid claim to the inheritance, I couldn't help but chuckle at her grave misunderstanding. "Let's see what the will says," I suggested. The lawyer then revealed its contents, and Amy's face turned pale, her expectations shattered. "No, this can't be," she stammered. "Amy is not entitled to inherit anything. That was Dad's final wish," the lawyer clarified firmly. Her husband, unable to contain his frustration, exploded in anger, sweeping items off the table. "This is absurd. Amy is that old woman's biological child," he yelled, demanding the inheritance. I confronted him. "Peter, did you try to harm my mom?" His glare was sharp. "I never did such a thing," he retorted. "Then why was there a mistake with her medication?" I pressed, seeking the truth behind his dubious care. With a scowl, he dismissively replied, "Who cares about that, Benjamin? It's outrageous that we're not getting any inheritance." My sister, losing composure, snapped, "What have you done?" It became clear that she hadn't been attentive to our mother's health, instead fixating on the inheritance to solve her financial woes. "Tell me this isn't true. I'm getting nothing?" she demanded. The lawyer, maintaining his composure, explained the distribution of the inheritance. After accounting for the funds my sister had prematurely withdrawn and the items she had sold, there was hardly anything left. Frustrated, she muttered, "That can't be it. It can't be this little." Her detachment from reality and reliance on our parents were clear as she faced the consequences of her actions. I confronted her, unable to hide my disdain. "Mom thought you would take care of her, but you just took her money and left her on her own. You're ungrateful," I said, my anger evident. "What are you talking about?" she retorted defensively. "Then show me the detailed expenses you used for Mom's living costs. I'll cover what's necessary," I challenged, extending my hand for proof. Her lips trembled. "I don't have that. Without receipts, it won't be recognized," she stammered, at a loss for words, as the lawyer emphasized the need for proper documentation. Her husband attempted to appeal to my sympathy. "Benjamin, your sister really needs help. Can't you lend her a hand, even just a little?" I remained firm, my frustration at their entitlement growing. He muttered under his breath, reflecting on what might have been. If everything had gone as planned, Amy would have had the entire inheritance by now. "What do you mean by that?" I questioned sharply, seeking the hidden implications in his words. Before I could press further, my brother-in-law inadvertently revealed more than he intended. "Because of this guy, nothing ever goes smoothly. I was supposed to get a new car, but all I ended up with was barely enough for repairs," he complained. My sister quickly tried to cut him off, but it was too late. "That's a serious accusation. It sounds like fraud," the lawyer pointed out, a wry smile crossing his face as he glanced at the troubled couple. "That's illegal," I said firmly, remembering that the meeting had been recorded, as both of them had agreed. Realizing the gravity of his blunder, Peter turned pale. "I'll be pressing charges for that accident," I declared resolutely. "Don't be absurd. There's no evidence," he hastily retorted. "You've just provided the evidence yourself," I shot back sharply. Overwhelmed by the situation, my sister broke down in tears, berating him. "You fool, it's all your fault. What are we going to do now?" Eventually, my brother-in-law faced criminal charges as his prior offenses came to light, leading to his detention by the police. My sister, implicated as an accomplice, received a lesser sentence. Struggling financially and unable to afford rent, she sought assistance from relatives, but found herself rejected by everyone. As for me, I continued to focus on my career, diligently working without depending on any inheritance. I found comfort in the dividends from stocks, a small but satisfying reminder of the rewards that come from honest labor and prudent investment.